What's your number one obscure animal fact? Some species of burrowing tarantula let tiny frogs live in their burrows. The frogs are kept safe by the big, mean-ass spider. And in exchange, they keep the burrow free of pests too small for the tarantula to deal with. This is pretty much how cats were domesticated. Tiny frogs are tarantula cats. So how do the spiders find these frogs? Craigslist. Dragonflies have the best successful hill rate of any creature on Earth. I only care about KD. Ducking dragonflies. Never pushing objective. Cheetahs are so closely related to each other that you can freely transplant organs between all members of their species without needing immunosuppression. All aggressively inbred. Yes, that's true, sadly. According to Wikipedia, it was caused by a genetic bottleneck during the last ice age. Sloth hands work opposite to ours. They have to exert energy to open their fist and relax to close it. This is how they can hang from trees while they're sleeping and not fall off. This is also how a bat's talons work. Dogs may make social judgments about people based on how those people treat their owners. A study out of Japan had dog owners asking two people for help opening a container. There were 3 possible outcomes. A person reacting negatively by refusing and turning away. A person remaining neutral and a person helping. The dogs were then offered food from the people the owner had approached for help. Dogs were much less likely to accept food from the people who had refused to help their owners. And much more likely to accept food from those who had been neutral or who had helped. Both animal and plant fact. Avocados were evolved to be eaten by the giant ground sloth. Imagine a sloth, but so massive it could only live on the ground. The flesh attracted the sloth and the very large seed was designed to travel through their intestinal tract for reseeding or whatever plants do. Humans killed the sloth but loved the avo. We domesticated the avo to increase the yummy flesh. The pit has gotten smaller but is still very large. Whenever you eat an avo, think of the long extinct giant sloth. A green sea turtle can swim faster than Usain Bolt can sprint. An animal out there with a house for a body can swim at speeds we don't allow in playground zones, 35 miles per hour. Yeah? But Usain Bolt can swim faster than a green sea turtle can run. There's a parasite that needs to get inside a warm-blooded animal. Problem is, it lives in fresh water. It waits to get swallowed by a fish. Then it attaches itself inside. Takes over a part of the host's brain, adjusting its behavior so the fish is not longer afraid of shadows. The fish is then more likely to get eaten by a heron, large bad that stalks freshwater fish. And the parasite gets inside its warm-blooded host and does Lord knows what. Thanks to Ricky Gervais for that. I think I might have butchered it a bit, but it's roughly along those lines. Here's a bonus one. Researchers took a leech, put it in a maze and put food at the other end. Eventually the leech figured out the route. They then liquidized the leech, fed that leech to other leeches, and those leeches were able to complete the maze on the first try. They had acquired the other leech's memory. Some squid have Tauronid-shaped donut brains, and their esophagus, throat, passing through it. If they eat something too big they can get brain damage. That's food for thought. Hippopotamus milk is pink. So is their sweat. It often looks like they're sweating blood. Some stores will only sell gerbils in pairs because they get very lonely. I think it was in Switzerland where it's forbidden by law to only keep one guinea pig. The loneliness is considered animal cruelty. Yes, side note. I remember there was this one Simpsons episode where Lisa got a guinea pig. I was pretty mad when I saw it because it showed millions of people it's fine to get only one guinea pig, it's not. The American bison is the only animal in which both lungs share a common cavity. In every other animal the lungs are separated. What this meant is that when shot by an arrow, both lungs would collapse and the buffalo would suffocate quickly. For other animals, being shot in the chest would only collapse one lung, and they would at least have a chance. That's why such a large animal could be taken down with relatively small weapons. Woodpeckers' tongues wrap around their skull to help absorb the impact of smashing their face into wood repeatedly. Snapping pistol shrimps and their colonies are so loud that they can interfere with sonar used by other animals and submarines. They also create tiny but incredibly powerful implosions through the sheer force of their pincers closing ludicrously fast. Which is cool. Edit. Okay. I get it. It isn't technically an explosion. It's actually an implosion. Not an explosion. They create a tiny vacuum bubble which is then quickly collapsed by the very high pressure of the surrounding water. Crocodiles never die of old age. They continue to live and grow for as long as there is a sustainable food source around. Most crocs die because they're killed by humans, or they grow too big and die of starvation because they can't eat enough to sustain themselves. So if we feed a crocodile in captivity, it could live forever? Theoretically yeah, but you'd need a lot of food after a while. Ancient penguins could have been up to 7 feet tall. So Mario 64 was historically accurate? Of course. Scientists thought the platypus was a joke until they sent a dead one back to be studied. One of the scientists of the time actually took a knife to the dried pelt to search for stitches. They thought it had to be a prank with different animals sewn together. The Greenland shark reaches sexual maturity at 150 years old and lives 300-500 years. Always fascinates me that there's something that can live that long. They're the oldest living vertebrate. Greenland sharks often go blind due to parasites that specifically target Greenland shark eyes. But the sharks don't mind at all because where they live it's so dark anyway. I'm sure they probably mind. Polar bears are so efficient at storing vitamin A. Consuming polar bear liver can cause death. One polar bear liver contains enough vitamin A to heal 52 adult humans. Polar bears are also primarily left paw dominant. In case you ever need to guess which paw they will attack with. Or which paw they will hold a pen with. A south paw from the North Pole. A snail has over 2,000 teeth. And they can bite you. I have been bitten by a snail. Coral is an animal. Related to jellyfish. Many coral species have a symbiotic relationship with a microorganism called zooxanthellae, which lives in their tissue and photosynthesizes like a plant, converting light into organic energy. Corals also deposit calcium carbonate and build huge geological structures called reefs. The most massive structure ever created by any living organism on planet Earth is a coral reef. Corals are like a cross between animals, plants, and rocks. And they are incredibly important for the health of our oceans. Because reefs serve as a nursery for many marine species. Save the reefs. I've said this in my own thread, but I'll say it again. Porcupines climb trees and come down backwards and use their tail to feel for the ground. Sometimes their tail will hit a branch and they will think it is the ground, and so they will jump off and impale themselves. Over time they evolved to have antibiotics in their quills, so when they fall out of trees they don't die. Instead of just evolving to climb down facing the ground. Naked mole rats are very FKN weird animals. They don't feel pain at all. Except for chili. They can survive 30 minutes without oxygen. They can't regulate their body temperature. Their incisors can work independently. No one has ever found cancer in a mole rat. They are thought to be immune to it. They can live for 30 years. Squirrels are responsible for thousands of new trees every year. They collect and bury their nuts all over the place so they'll have food to last through winter. But they forget about most of them. Seals will get seasick if you put them on a boat. It's weird until you think of people who get carsick because it's the exact same thing. Fish have been seen using tools, deliberately hitting a clam with a rock to get it to open so they can eat it. Some fish, eels and groupers, form hunting partnerships where they communicate across the species barrier with specific signals to put their individual strengths to work. The eels chase prey out of crevices to where the groupers are waiting in open water. They also get fooled by illusions in the same way we do. Meaning that their brains are processing and interpreting their environment in a similar way to us. That's technically 3 facts, but I like fish. There aren't a lot of bees in Australia. So for pollination plants relied on birds. Birds see the color red better. which in turn increase the flora reproduction rate. This is why a lot of plants are red in Australia. Edit. Clarity. A horse can outrun a bear. If you see a mountain lion, it has already decided to eat you. If you're camping and you hear an animal moving around, it's probably a skunk or a beaver or a porcupine. Bears, moose, and other large animals are surprisingly snarky. Tasmanian devils can carry a type of cancer that is contagious. Ants breed and domesticate aphids around their colonies, so they can drink their milky secretions. Aphids are ant cows, so ladybugs, then, would be like ant chupacabras. Edit. Thanks to everyone for both appreciating this ant fact and for educating me with more ant facts. There are also a variety of ants called slave-making ants that will go scout around for other ant colonies nearby. Then they go on a little ant crusade and invade another colony. They capture the larvae of the target colony and leave with them. The larvae are then tricked into thinking they're originally from the slavers' colony and will serve for it how they normally would have theirs. Opossums were originally found in the eastern and central parts of the United States until the 1930s, when they were intentionally transported to the western portion to be used as food during the Great Depression. The warrior wasp's sting was described by biologist Justin Schmidt, creator of the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, as torture. You are chained in the flow of an active volcano. Why did I make this list? It was also considered traumatically painful on the star sting pain scale. According to Coyote Peterson, Brave Wilderness, who made videos about him being stung by the most painful insects in the world, the warrior wasp's sting isn't nearly as bad as the bullet ant. Being stung by the bullet ant feels like you're being shot, and the pain can last for up to 24 hours. It hurts to even think about it. Dogs sneeze when they are playing with humans to show that they are in fact playing and not being aggressive. People thought the okapi was a hoax until it was photographed. In parts of Sumatra, it is believed that the orangutan can speak and refuses to do so because they don't want to work.